So we are planning our 2023 garden, and it is pretty incredible this year. We have a lot of things that we are doing, including this big brand new garden behind me. And this garden will house a lot of the beans and potatoes and things like that that we're doing. And so this is a new garden space, about 2,000 square feet, if not more. And this is in addition to our kitchen garden, which is in front of the house that we used last year. You probably have seen some of those videos. And that kitchen garden will hold our tomatoes, our peppers, some of our cucumbers, and various different things like that. So today I'm planting some strawberries. We've already got garlic in the ground, and we've got a lot of stuff going on. And so I thought I might talk to you a little bit today about our 2023 plans for the garden. So we have a lot going on in our kitchen garden. I'm gonna start there first, and then I'm gonna tell you just briefly what we're planting in the other garden, because there's really not much to show you there. There's a lot of greenhouse fabric, and we've already planted, I think, 7 rows of potatoes, about 100 pounds of potatoes. And so there's not much to show you there yet, but I do want to tell you what we're going to plant there. But for now, we're going to go over this kitchen garden. So this kitchen garden did us very well last year. We had not intended on planting anything because I was pregnant at the time, very pregnant when we moved here. But our friends at Windmill Heights gave us a roll of the greenhouse fabric that they use. And I'm gonna tell you, I know there's some controversy around this, but in a season of life where you just don't have a lot of time on your hands, this greenhouse fabric is a lifesaver. So check out this as an option. It's not the cheap fabric you get from, you know, a store or something. Check with your local greenhouse producer and provider and see if you can just get this fabric. It's just a dark fabric, and they have different options. I don't remember what this option was. I know with the big new garden, we went with the 12-foot roll, and so it was 12 foot by 300 feet, and so that will get us the most of that garden. And then actually we're going to be putting up a high tunnel. There's the high tunnel stuff back there. It's new to us. It's not brand new. We got a deal on Facebook Marketplace, and that's actually going to go back here behind the chicken coop, which you can't see right now. So it'll give us some of that as well for that. All right, so behind me I have these raised garden beds, and these are new. There are actually 4 more that are going to go on this side. So we have these garden beds here, and then there'll be 4 more over here that'll be filled up. A friend of ours brought us a bunch of fill dirt to put in, and then I just took these and put some of our leaf compost, basically, it was in here. It was in this space in the garden, and so I took it and just layered it on top of these beds. So what we did was, there is fabric underneath of these beds, this greenhouse fabric, and we put down a layer of the fill dirt, and then we cleaned out the cow stall and put in a layer of straw and cow manure, and then we put on another layer of the soil, and then we covered it with leaf mulch. So that'll get us through this year. And here in this front one up here, I planted strawberry roots from Stark Brothers. And so I'm really thankful for them. They always have what I need whenever I'm trying to look for something. And they have a lot of different options. So I just planted those. These other 3 beds will probably be for different herbs. So like thyme and oregano and rosemary. Back here, I have a sage plant. Over there, right here, I have a basil plant from last year, but I'm not sure if it's going to come back or not. We'll see. If not, I'll plant another basil plant there. But the rest of these will be regular herbs and various different things. So over here in this space, you can see where these T-posts are. This is where I had tomatoes and peppers last year. I am going to put tomatoes where these 2 T-posts are, but then over here where this grass is, I am going to put down this greenhouse fabric once again, and I'm going to actually plant all of my peppers down this row. There's a little onion that's popping up that we left last year, and so all of my peppers are going to go down here. This is a row of garlic. The chickens have been picking the tops off, but it's actually been a blessing in disguise because it has made our garlic grow really, really well. So they're kind of been out of here for a while, but so that's where that is. You can see the holes are left over from last year. Here's that sage plant I was talking about. Sage always makes it through the winter really well here. From there, I'm probably going to make another row of tomatoes right here. I've got about 70 probably tomato plants to put between these 3 rows. So it'll be really good. Last year, this is where I had my green bean plants, but my green beans are actually going up in the bigger garden this year. So this space, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use it for. This is where the raised beds are going right here. Those other 4 raised beds, because this is basically just gravel right here. But here, I think I'm going to do things like squash and maybe some melons and cucumbers. All of those things are going to go here. You can see there's some holes up here from the summer squash that we had last year. 4 summer squash plants gave us all the summer squash we'll ever need in a season, and those stakes were from cucumbers. So I may very well do those here, but I'm not quite sure yet. I also really want to plant a bunch of flowers in here, so I might use these green bean holes to plant things like sunflowers and zinnias, poppies, and more cut flower items that I can grow here. So we'll just see. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with this space. I'm more aware of what I'm going to do out in that big garden and why we're going to do it the way that we are. And so let me talk to you a bit about that. So one of the things that's really important to me this year, we had a guy that we got a fence quote from, I don't know, I guess it was sometime last year. And he was telling us that growing up, he actually, his family would grow 3 years worth of something or another each year. And so by saying that, he was meaning like last year they would have grown all of the tomatoes they would have needed for 3 years. And then this year they wouldn't really grow a lot of tomatoes. They would grow like all the green beans they would need for the next 3 years. And they were on a rotational schedule. And so I kind of want to get into that. Like the big garden up in the front. So up there, we're doing lots of potatoes. I'm doing potatoes for storage, but I'm also doing potatoes for canning. I want to can a bunch of potatoes this year. So regular potatoes and probably some sweet potatoes. And then we're going to do things like green beans. We're going to do pinto beans, lima beans, so dried beans, and then lima beans that I can. And then we're going to do just a huge batch of all of those things so that I don't have to worry about growing everything every single year. And the other part of that is like, what if you grow a batch and it doesn't do well one year, and then one year you don't have any green beans? Do you know what I mean? Like, and so I want to start now while we're here, getting into this rotational gardening. So, you know, this year I'm growing a ton of tomatoes to produce all kinds of tomato products and just canned tomatoes. And then next year I might not have to plant as many tomatoes because I'll already be ahead of the game, right? So the same concept. This year I want to plant a ton of green beans and lima beans and just things that I can grow a lot of in a big space that grow really well, so that I'm not, you know, I'm not having to worry. I'm worrying less each year, because at least every year I want to grow one crop that will last us 3 years if it has to. So my goal this year is beans, crops of beans, green beans, pinto beans, and lima beans specifically would be my 3-year crops for this year. Now that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna grow green beans and lima beans next year. That's not what I'm saying. But this concept of the 3-year garden really it intrigues me. It makes me really interested, because it seems like a really sustainable way to grow food. It's kind of like your backup plan, right? Like not relying on every single year of your harvest. Or what if, you know, the rabbits take out all of this harvest? You know what I mean? Like, so it's a fail safe that I had really never thought about before. And so I thought I would just share that with you guys as you're planning your garden for 2023. Kind of think of things like that may kind of help you carry that burden of food preservation. And the other thing for me too was like, what if I get pregnant again and I have a year where I really I don't feel like gardening, because I am forever and always pregnant in the summertime with my babies. Like all three of my babies have been summertime born babies. And so my thing is, okay, you know, Abigail is coming up on a year old this summer. What if I get pregnant again? I'm very sick when I'm pregnant and I don't have the time to preserve for my family or plant a garden for my family or whatnot. And so these are just things that I think about as a mom, as a wife, as a homemaker, and as a homesteader. And so I thought I would share that with you guys. So as you're planning your garden this year, if you hadn't thought about this before and you do have the space, then consider that. Consider kind of putting that fail safe in place. But also consider if you have a small garden space too, because here's why. You can grow like a lot of one thing in a small space. When we lived on just a half acre, we had a very small garden, and in that very small garden, I was still able to plant most of the tomatoes we would need in a year. Depending on the year, it was touch and go there because I didn't have as much sun as I needed. If I did, then I would have been able to plant as many tomatoes as I would need in a year in just that small space. But, you know, I think back to that time and I think I could have planted one year all of the tomatoes I would need for probably 2 years' time, based on the planting and the tomatoes I was getting, the second tomatoes I was getting from the orchard nearby. And then the following year, I could have planted less tomatoes and planted all of the green beans I would need for 3 years. And then the following years, I could have planted all of the potatoes I would need for 3 years. And then on that third year, I would have tomatoes, green beans, potatoes, and I would just start the process over again. Maybe the following year, it would be pickles or various different things. So just think about it. You can even do this in a very small garden space if you plan it well. And the other thing is to think about succession planting. I can get 2 batches of green beans, 2 plantings of green beans here in Virginia every year. And so think about that. Like my first planting, we always eat from that first planting. And so I can still eat fresh green beans in the summertime from that first planting. And then the second planting I can. And so this larger garden space gives me the option to just plant green beans and not have to succession plant. But if you are in a small space, then it does give you the option to succession plant and still have the same outcome. So this is our little new project right here that I thought I'd show you guys too. We took down some junk trees. They were just small. They look like a lot of trees, but it's really not. And we are building on a mini barn to this chicken coop. This chicken coop is going to turn into our brooder space. We have meat birds coming in April, and so they'll go there. And then this barn on the end is going to be for the cows. As of right now, we're supposed to be babysitting a cow in April. And so she's coming to the farm for a week, and I'll get my hardcore crash lesson in milking a cow every day, twice a day. So we are trying to get that done in the next week so that she will definitely at least have a space to go, and so that our little Hazel will have somewhere to go too. We have our chicks that we hatched a few weeks back. These are chicks from our own birds. I see there's a child mess up in this joint. We'll fix that later. But there's quite a few roosters in here, but there's quite a few fun hens as well. And so we really enjoy doing hatching our own chickens. No, don't go in there. And they're just super resilient in every way. So the concept behind this little mini barn is this will be an actual chicken coop, and then there'll be a lean-to that comes off the back here, and these will actually be multiple stalls for cows because you can't just have one cow. So one stall will be for Hazel. We'll have another milk cow coming to the farm eventually, basically as soon as this barn is done. And then we will have another stall for calves and such. So there's a lot of things happening here. There's a lot of projects in such a short amount of time. If you haven't noticed, we got a fence up this summer, and we had a lot of help on that. And so now we've got that going for the cows, and What's so funny?
It's not even summer yet.
I said we got it up in the summer.
It's not summer.
Oh, I guess it was the fall.
Idiot.
It was the fall. We got it up in the fall. But it felt like summertime. It was so hot here. So that's Junior. He's basically a teenager now. Well, I guess he is a teenager now. Fun times. All right, thank you guys for joining me on this week's video. I hope that it inspired you and encouraged you. And until next time, happy homesteading. Say bye.
Bye.
I know that you're curious. I know that you're strong.